Welcome to another Q&A video. You had some very specific comments and questions about Equestria girls, so let's get to it. Why did Spike have to be a dog? Yes, people are still asking this. Well, considering how much extra attention he got from Rarity by being a puppy, I don't think he minded that much. In fact, he seemed to be better adjusted to it than anyone else. Human Rainbow Dash for the win! I know, right? She spends half her screen time making cute faces. Equestria Girls is the best movie ever! And here's where I have to step in with a bit of a reality check. Now, I already said that I liked it and I gave it a positive-ish review, but best movie ever? Alright, Dragon Shy, Green Isn't Your Color, Party of One, Lesson 0, Sweet and Elite, A Canterlot Wedding, The Crystal Empire. Those are episodes of the show, all written by Megan McCarthy, and each one of them by themselves is better than Equestria Girls. And that's the real shame of it. Forget about comparing it to other movies. The truth is, it doesn't even measure up to the show that it's based on. And again, it isn't bad, but when you really look at the level of talent at work here, plus all the extra time they had to tell the story, this movie is astonishingly mediocre. Now, by all means, enjoy it, have a good time with it, I certainly did, but also try to have a bit of perspective and don't be afraid to hold these people to a higher standard. They can do better, we have proof. Do you think that Equestria Girls and Twilight becoming a princess sends a bad message to little girls? I already answered this in the comments, but it's a really good question. Regarding Twilight, it's important to understand that becoming a princess in Equestria is not the same thing as becoming a princess in real life. In Equestria, you have to prove you're qualified for the job, being able to look out for the needs of others, and generally being able to handle having a large amount of power without abusing it. She's still learning, she's still learning. The parade, the dress, and all that other stuff are just bonuses that go along with a very important job that can only be filled by the best of the best of the best. Though apparently this only applies to the princesses because I have no idea what Prince Blueblood's deal is. But in any case, while becoming a princess in real life might not be a realistic goal for most girls, I generally don't have a problem with any message that encourages you to be a better person. And I like how Equestria Girls helps reinforce the idea that Twilight is a capable leader through her ability to quickly organize and rally others around her in a positive way. However, while Equestria Girls doesn't really go out of its way to be mean-spirited or hurtful, it also doesn't really offer anything challenging or insightful like the better episodes of the show. And this is kind of personal for me. A lot of fans got upset at the trailer, saying that it looked shallow and they knew exactly how it was going to play out. And I made a whole video standing up for this thing, saying, hey, give it a chance, it might do something really clever. Nope, it did exactly what everyone thought it was going to do. And in some cases, the characters' personalities end up reverting back to the way they were in the Season 1 pilot episode. The end result is pretty inoffensive overall, but while this certainly isn't the worst thing to ever come out of Friendship is Magic, it is still consistent with the drop in quality from Season 3. And personally, I still think the show can get better, but I'm going to be very worried if it continues along this trend. Twilight couldn't just tell Principal Celestia the crown was hers because Celestia thought it was the fake crown that Sunset Shimmer swapped out earlier. Well, that's a fair point, but it also raises the question, why didn't Twilight bring the fake crown with her? Or at least go back through the portal to get it? At the very least, it didn't belong in her universe anyway, and even though it looks similar to her crown, if you compare them side by side, it quickly becomes apparent which one is higher quality and therefore more likely to be a real crown instead of a cheap prop used for a school dance. Personally, I liked Sunset Shimmer, not because of what she did, but because of what she represented. Aw man, I know what you mean. You have no idea how badly I was rooting for Sunset Shimmer to be a great villain. All of the ingredients were there. She had a personal history with Celestia, she had an advantage over Twilight in the human world, and it's even suggested that she might be more intelligent and magically gifted than Twilight too. Plus, considering who her voice actress is, everything's set up for her to be the Negaverse version of Twilight. But aside from a couple of minutes that we got at the very end, she was just a mean girl. And mean girls aren't interesting, they're just hateful assholes. And that's why I do harp on what they ultimately did with her, because there's so much wasted potential here. I didn't think there was anything wrong with Twilight getting a crush. It went about the way I'd expect. I think I need to explain what I meant in my review. When I said the romantic scenes between Twilight and Flash were awkward, I wasn't talking about how Twilight was acting. I was talking about how it was integrated into the story. Now, I am not one of those people who thinks Twilight should never have a boyfriend. Even if it is a human, that could potentially be interesting. But if you're gonna go there, then you need to do something with it. And they didn't. On one hand, it didn't add anything to the story. story. As I said in my trailer reaction video, Flash could have just been a guy who helped Twilight out, and ultimately that's all he really did. The story came to a screeching halt to shoehorn in the romantic stuff. It also didn't teach us anything about what kind of guy Twilight likes, because Flash is one of those impossibly perfect guys who only exists in fiction. I mean, to begin with, he's practically designed to look like a modern-day Fonzie. He plays in a rock band, drives his own custom sports car to school. Seriously, what the fuck was that all about? And on top of that, he's a detective who fights for justice. Yeah, all he needs is a tragic backstory, and this kid's only a few years away from being Batman. And even though he's clearly set up to be the coolest guy in the school, at least by cartoon standards, he doesn't care about looking cool. When he sees Twilight doing her weird dance from Sweet and Elite and freaking everyone out, he just smiles and goes, "Ah, that's my girl," and then starts dancing with her. In these scenes, Flash only exists as a stereotypical romantic fantasy for girls, which is fine as long as you recognize that that's what he is. And to drive this point home even more, Flash is just now learning that this is the second girl he's been attracted to in a row who turned out to be a magical talking pony from another dimension, and he doesn't even acknowledge it. But even still, this could have at least worked as a way of teaching an important life lesson, since that's kind of what the series is all about. To show kids who are growing up with friendship is magic that one day you're going to be attracted to someone and this is how you deal with it. But no, again, all they do is show the characters blushing while everyone else just snickers at them, if that. And that's why this is awkward. It doesn't add to the story, it doesn't tell us about the characters, and doesn't even try to convey any kind of message to the audience. You could take it out of the movie completely and nothing would be lost. I didn't like Equestria Girls because Twilight and Spike were the only ones who went through the mirror, leaving the other main five behind for most of the movie. I can understand why this can be disappointing and how it feels like a betrayal of the other main characters, but remember that there have been episodes of the show where several main characters were completely absent. Sweet and Elite was all about Rarity, and the other characters didn't even show up until the end. In Equestria Girls, I understand that the story was all about Twilight, and more time was needed to establish the alternate universe characters. Rather, I think the reason this stands out so much is because the stuff that happens in the alternate universe needed to be more interesting. What did you think of the Season 4 animatics from San Diego Comic-Con? I haven't seen them, and I'm not going to. Believe it or not, I actually try to avoid spoilers as much as possible. Usually when I get pieces of information early, it's because this community is just so fast to talk about everything. And one special example of this is when Magical Mystery Cure was announced. Hell, even the Hub's marketing campaign spoiled this episode ahead of time. Just why would you even do that? The A&Y Pony talked about this in one of his videos, and I agree with him completely. As much as I love Magical Mystery Cure, how much more amazing would it have been to see it without knowing the ending ahead of time? In fact, can I just say something that should be stupidly obvious already? Magical Mystery Cure should have been the movie. I mean, Season 3 was pretty much a bust anyway, so they should have just let Megan McCarthy write some different story for the finale, and then let M.A. Larson write the movie. Compared to Equestria Girls, Magical Mystery Cure had a better story, it just needed to be fleshed out a bit. It had better music, it just needed longer versions of the songs that got cut short. Despite the implications of Equestria Girls making human ponies canon, Magical Mystery Cure actually represents a bigger change to the series, and overall it provides a more meaningful experience. Helping Twilight win the crown might have been catchy, but imagine for a minute what it would have been like to go into a movie theater and hear Celestia's ballad for the first time. Anyway, getting back to the question, and keeping in mind everything I just said, while I haven't seen the Season 4 animatics, I have heard some of the things that were announced, particularly regarding Luna, because certain people I watch on other websites began putting that information in their journal headers. Thank you very much. Also, I want to make it clear that there is a world of difference between this and, say, at a convention when someone asks John Delancey if Discord's going to do something in a future episode, and John responding by saying, "Just remember you asked that question." That's an example of a fun teaser. It doesn't confirm anything or give out any details, it only gives you enough of a suggestion to get you excited and asking questions. Also try to remember that before Season 3 began, DHX also leaked some supposed spoilers back then, saying that Fluttershy would turn into a dragon and Rarity would have a singing duet with Octavia, none of which ever happened. But assuming that the Season 4 stuff is really happening, and before you start telling me that dialogue for Luna has already been recorded, shut up and listen to the first part of this again. All I'm going to say is that I welcome any opportunity for more Luna episodes, but as for specific details, I'm going to wait until the episodes come out to talk about them. What are your hopes for Season 4? Aside from what I already said in my Season 3 Extra Thoughts video, the only other thing I will say specifically about Season 4 is that I hope Twilight gets to keep her wings. I know a number of fans apparently want her to lose them through some story contrivance, but that honestly seems like the show would just be going backwards, and that really doesn't feel like the right thing to do. Also, make Spike more like he was in Equestria Girls, because that Spike was awesome. Anyway, that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.